What if the very flaws you've been trying to erase from your soul were actually clues pointing toward a higher destiny? Imagine discovering that your deepest struggles aren't punishments, but sacred messages encoded in your psyche to lead you toward your spiritual calling. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychologist, stumbled upon a truth so powerful and controversial that many institutions would prefer you never hear it. According to Jung, there are 6 particular vices, those traits you often feel ashamed of, that are not signs of moral failure. They're not sins in the traditional sense. Rather, they are spiritual indicators, codes from the divine, revealing those who are meant for something far greater. These 6 vices act like internal alarm bells, echoing the frequency of those chosen for extraordinary missions. While most people are taught to hide, suppress, or battle their destructive tendencies, Jung suggests we must observe them instead, dive into them, decode them, because these patterns, these compulsions, are actually divine instructions attempting to guide your soul back to its mission. You've been feeling broken, lost, or like something inside you is fundamentally wrong, not because you're cursed or flawed, but because you're tuned into a frequency that only a rare group can hear. It's the dissonance between the material world and your soul's deeper knowing. Let's start with one of the most common signs, an unquenchable dissatisfaction. Have you ever noticed that no matter what you acquire, new achievements, relationships, possessions, there's always this lingering sense that something's missing? Society may label this as greed or a lack of gratitude, but Jung called it divine restlessness. It's not about wanting more material success, it's about craving something deeper, something sacred. Your soul isn't seeking another promotion, another gadget, or even another person. It's yearning for alignment with its true spiritual path. This inner hunger makes you different from others. While most people are content with surface-level pleasures and conventional accomplishments, you feel detached, like an outsider. Even in your happiest moments, you sense a void, an ache that refuses to be ignored. That ache is not a curse, it's a compass. It's your soul's way of telling you, this isn't it. Keep searching. This spiritual thirst often drives people like you into patterns of addiction, not out of weakness, but because you're desperately reaching for something to fill that existential gap. Whether it's through substances, obsessions, toxic relationships, or reckless pursuits, the intention is always the same: to connect with something that feels real. And yet, everything leaves you emptier than before. That's not failure. That's your soul rejecting anything that doesn't resonate with its higher truth. But here's the twist. This dissatisfaction is necessary. Jung argued that divine discontent prevents you from settling into mediocrity. While others numb themselves into comfort zones, your soul simply won't allow it. It pushes you, it frustrates you, and through that restlessness, it shapes you into someone who will one day carry out a purpose beyond personal gain. This state of constant seeking also sharpens your intuition. You start sensing things other people miss when someone is being inauthentic, when something feels energetically off, or when a situation carries unseen implications. Your nervous system becomes a radar, attuned to spiritual frequencies others are blind to. This hypersensitivity can feel like a burden, especially when people dismiss your feelings or label you as overly emotional. But it's not a defect, it's your gift. It's what separates the chosen from the comfortable. And yes, this sensitivity isolates you. People around you might not understand why you're so intense or why you keep questioning everything. They might even ridicule your depth. But this isolation is not punishment, it's protection. Your soul is being preserved from shallow interactions that would only pull you off course. Your solitude is sacred space, reserved for the evolution of something bigger. Flowing from that deep sense of restlessness is another powerful sign of being chosen. You're craving for solitude. While others may thrive in social settings and constantly seek connection, you feel most alive when you're alone. It's not depression. It's not being antisocial. It's a divine calling for silence. Jung recognized this unique trait among those he believed were marked for spiritual missions. He found that solitude isn't just a preference for the chosen ones, it's a necessity. It's how you receive guidance from the spiritual realm. It's how your soul processes its assignments. When you withdraw from the noise of the world, something extraordinary happens. Your thoughts become clearer, your inner voice louder, your energy more aligned, and that voice you hear in solitude, that whisper you feel nudging you in a certain direction, that's not your imagination, it's divine communication. The sacred downloads you receive in your quiet moments are not random. They're instructions, they're insights. They're the tools you'll one day use to serve the world in your highest capacity. But here's the problem. Society doesn't understand this. We live in a culture that glorifies constant interaction and labels those who prefer stillness as lonely or strange. You've probably been pressured by family or friends to get out more, to be normal, to stop spending so much time alone. What they don't realize is that your solitude is not empty, it's productive in ways they can't begin to comprehend. You're not just sitting in silence. You're aligning with higher realms, sorting through energy, healing, reflecting, and strengthening your inner compass. You've also likely noticed that too much time around others drains you, even when you love the people in your life. Prolonged exposure to their energy can feel suffocating. You walk away from social gatherings feeling tired, not because of introversion, but because your energy field is incredibly sensitive. Your soul is designed to maintain a clear connection with the divine, and too much external interference disrupts that connection. This isn't weakness, it's sacred design. During your solitary moments, you're undergoing spiritual calibration. Think of it like tuning an instrument. The stillness, the quiet, the introspection, it's not avoidance. It's preparation. You're not hiding from life. You're being equipped for a life far more meaningful than the average path. This sacred retreat allows you to tap into creativity, to birth new ideas, to awaken dormant abilities. It's no coincidence that you often feel the most inspired, intuitive, and aligned when you're alone. This is your natural state, the place where your soul can breathe freely. Jung observed that people like you often use their solitude for deep spiritual work, while others might use alone time to binge on distractions or escape their problem. You go inward. You reflect. You question. You explore past lives, karmic patterns, and energetic wounds. This is spiritual processing on a level that few understand, and it's not accidental. It's training. You're working through soul lessons that will not only benefit you, but serve others in ways you haven't yet imagined. Even more fascinating, your alone time serves as spiritual protection. When your path becomes too chaotic, or when you're on the verge of distraction, life will often push you into solitude. Things will fall apart, people will walk away, plans will get canceled. And it's not rejection, it's redirection. Your soul knows it needs quiet to recalibrate. God knows your purpose is too important to be clouded by low vibrations or toxic influences, so you're gently, or sometimes forcefully, removed from situations that threaten your alignment. In this stillness, something profound happens. Your real self emerges, not the version of you shaped by roles, expectations, or social masks, but the raw, unfiltered essence of your being. And in those moments of clarity, you remember who you are and why you're here. The chaos of the world fades away, and the divine blueprint of your mission begins to take form. Coming out of those sacred moments of solitude, you've probably found yourself overwhelmed by a powerful compulsion to fix everything around you. It's like your soul can't help but scan for what's broken, whether it's a situation, a person, a family dynamic, or even an entire system, and immediately starts strategizing ways to make it whole. To most, this looks like being a control freak. But Jung believed this was something much deeper. For the chosen ones, this need for control is not about ego, it's about purpose. You carry within you an unconscious awareness that you're responsible for the greater good. And this awareness expresses itself as a desire to manage outcomes. When your family is in turmoil, you feel it's your job to restore peace. When chaos strikes your workplace, you can't help but step in to organize and stabilize. When you see suffering in the world, it physically hurts you, as if the injustice is your fault. This isn't savior syndrome. It's your soul waking up to its mission. But this control impulse comes at a cost. You exhaust yourself trying to manage variables that are often beyond your control. You plan, fix, rescue, coordinate, and when things don't go as intended, the disappointment is crushing. You wonder if you're failing. You question your abilities. What you may not realize is that this repeated stress is actually spiritual training. Every failed attempt at control becomes a lesson in surrender. Every disappointment builds your patience and spiritual resilience. You're learning to move between effort and trust, to take action, while also releasing attachment to the outcome. You see, your soul knows that one day you will be called to lead, not in the conventional sense, but in the way that only those who've been through the fire can. And leadership of that caliber demands preparation. You're not just learning to manage people, you're learning to manage energy, frequency, and divine timing. This trial and error process with control is shaping you into someone who can handle power with humility. Jung observed that people marked for higher missions often become natural leaders, not because they crave control, but because they cannot watch things fall apart. You likely step into leadership roles even when you don't want to, because no one else steps up. Because the vision matters to you, because your heart won't allow you to stand by in silence. This is part of your sacred assignment. And yes, it makes you seem intense. People may call you bossy, perfectionistic, or inflexible. But beneath that, You're just trying to protect the delicate structure of something important. You feel responsible for outcomes because your intuition is constantly tuned into the consequences of inaction. You can sense when something is going wrong before anyone else notices. You carry a prophetic awareness of the future, and it burdens you. But that burden is your gift. This desire to control is actually rooted in your deep compassion. You're trying to prevent pain yours, others, the world's, and that makes you deeply dependable. People learn to lean on you because you show up, take charge, and make sure things get done. But over time, this makes you weary. It stretches your capacity. It forces you to confront your limits. Eventually, you begin to realize that some things are not yours to fix, and that realization is part of your transformation. You're being trained to lead with wisdom, not anxiety, to act with intention, not desperation. The more you learn to balance your effort with surrender, the closer you move toward your divine leadership role. You're learning to manage your energy, not just situations. You're learning to become a vessel for spiritual order, rather than a human fixer of all things. This is not failure. This is alchemy. Your need for control is slowly transmuting into spiritual authority, following that urge to control and manage the world around you. You may have noticed something that feels both unfair and inescapable. Your life seems filled with more pain, challenges, and adversity than those around you. While others appear to breeze through existence with ease, your path has been one of obstacles, betrayals, breakdowns, and heartbreaks. This isn't just bad luck. Jung believed it's something far more meaningful. It's preparation. Pain, for the chosen ones, is not a punishment. It's a crucible, a sacred fire in which your soul is forged. Jung taught that ordinary people, destined for ordinary purposes, can live ordinary lives, but those who are called to something greater must be shaped by suffering. Why? Because deep pain breaks away the parts of you that are inauthentic. It forces your ego to dissolve. It dismantles illusions. It purifies. It prepares. Every heartbreak you've endured, every loss you've grieved, every dark night of the soul you've survived, these are not random occurrences. They are intentional. They are curriculum. Your soul is attending an advanced spiritual academy, and pain is the primary teacher. Through suffering, you gain compassion. Through confusion, you gain clarity. Through despair, you gain faith. Jung believed that suffering is the gateway to self-realization. And for those chosen for divine missions, suffering is intensified because the mission itself requires profound inner strength. That strength isn't developed in comfort. It's cultivated in struggle. When you experience financial hardship, you're being taught resourcefulness and empathy. When you face betrayal, you learn discernment and how to see through masks. When your health fails, you are initiated into the mysteries of healing. Every wound becomes a source of wisdom. This doesn't make the pain easier, but it does make it meaningful. You begin to understand that your suffering is not in vain. It's shaping you into someone capable of guiding others through their own darkness. You're becoming a bridge, a wounded healer, whose very scars testify to what is possible on the other side of devastation. Your repeated hardships are also what keep you connected to humanity. If your life had been easy, if you had never known suffering, you might have become arrogant or disconnected from others. But your wounds keep you humble. They remind you what it feels like to be broken, to be lost, to be desperate for light. That memory becomes your medicine. And someday, you will offer that medicine to others. This relationship with pain makes you different. While most people avoid discomfort at all costs, you've learned to sit with it, to extract meaning from it, to use it as fuel for growth. Your pain becomes your compass. It tells you where your work is, where your soul still needs healing, and where your mission lies. Every time you survive what should have destroyed you, your resilience grows. You discover inner resources you didn't know existed. You tap into wells of strength, intuition, and divine support that most people never access. That's because your path is not about survival, it's about transformation. Jung noted that those chosen for sacred work must experience the full range of human emotion, from ecstasy to agony, because only then can they become true guides. You are not meant to bypass suffering. You are meant to walk through it. And in doing so, you become someone others can trust. They will see in your eyes the authenticity that comes only from experience. So no, your pain doesn't mean you're cursed. It means you're being trained, shaped, initiated. And someday, the same pain that once made you feel broken will be the foundation of the healing you offer the world. Flowing from this intimate relationship with pain comes another unmistakable sign of your divine calling. A constant sense that you're meant to be doing more. Even when life is stable, even when you've achieved goals others admire, there's this background noise inside you. A persistent nudge that says, this isn't it. It's not anxiety. It's not dissatisfaction. It's divine restlessness, a spiritual stirring that won't let you settle. Carl Jung believed that those destined for great missions carry a kind of spiritual GPS, and that GPS doesn't allow you to stop moving forward. It won't let you stagnate. It keeps whispering, urging you to evolve, to search, to prepare. Even when things are fine, you feel like something's missing. You might jump from job to job, from relationship to relationship, not because you're unreliable, but because your soul knows that you haven't yet stepped into your real purpose. People may not understand this. Friends or family might accuse you of being ungrateful, unstable, or even reckless. But deep down, you know it's not about chasing novelty, it's about obeying an inner call that refuses to be silenced. This divine restlessness isn't random, it's sacred. It's how your soul keeps you aligned with your mission. This is why you struggle to commit to long-term plans. Something inside you resists locking into anything permanent. It's not because you fear commitment, it's because your spirit knows that transformation is coming. You're in training. Every experience is a stepping stone. And your soul doesn't want to build a house on a bridge. It wants to stay light, flexible, open, ready to leap when the time comes. This restlessness also shows up in your relationships. You may find yourself drawn to people who challenge you to grow, who don't let you stay small or stuck in comfort. You're not interested in easy relationships. Your soul craves intensity, evolution, mirroring. You're subconsciously preparing for spiritual partnerships that will become central to your future work. Even your interests reflect this spiritual wandering. You're always learning, always seeking new insights. You might find yourself obsessed with psychology one month, spirituality the next, ancient history after that. This isn't scattered thinking, it's data collection. Your soul is gathering tools, frameworks, and perspectives that will one day form the foundation of your service. This divine agitation also protects you. While others get trapped in routine, lulled into comfort zones, your inner restlessness keeps you moving. It stops you from accepting mediocrity. It ensures you don't trade your mission for convenience. It keeps your vision expansive, always tuned to the bigger picture. Jung observed that this kind of soul is like a traveler who can't rest until they've reached their destination. And while others may criticize you for never being satisfied, they don't see that you're not searching for something external. You're searching for alignment, for truth, for the work you came here to do. And here's what most people don't realize. This restlessness intensifies just before transformation. When you're about to shift into a new level of consciousness or purpose, the agitation becomes almost unbearable. It's your soul's way of preparing you for the leap. It creates discomfort to make the familiar impossible, forcing you to move into the unknown. Understanding this changes everything. Instead of judging your restlessness, you begin to trust it. Instead of trying to silence it, you start listening to it. It's not weakness. It's not indecision. It's guidance. And once you learn to follow it not with fear, but with faith, it will lead you exactly where you're meant to go. Out of that divine restlessness emerges yet another powerful trait that often sets you apart, a relentless need to question everything. From a young age, you probably found yourself challenging ideas that others accepted without a second thought. You weren't trying to be rebellious or difficult. You were simply unable to ignore inconsistencies in what you were taught. Carl Jung noted that this kind of questioning mind was not only rare, it was essential for those destined to confront truth and bring light into dark places. Your need to dig deeper, to analyze, to push beyond surface explanations isn't just intellectual curiosity. It's spiritual instinct. While others may accept what they're told about religion, politics, culture, or morality, you feel compelled to investigate, to ask why, again and again, until you hit something that feels real. And if the answer doesn't resonate with your inner compass, you discard it no matter how popular or accepted it may be. This questioning often makes you feel like an outsider. People accuse you of being negative, cynical, or never satisfied. They may even distance themselves, unable to handle your constant probing. But your questions aren't rooted in doubt. They're rooted in a need for truth. You're not trying to destroy belief systems, you're trying to find what's unshakably real. Jung believed that those with great spiritual callings must develop what he called symbolic thinking, the ability to perceive the deeper meanings behind appearances. And symbolic thinking begins with questioning. Why do people behave the way they do? What's behind this cultural tradition? Who benefits from this system? Your mind is wired to peel back the layers, to see through the mask. You're not satisfied with surface-level explanations because you're not living a surface-level life. You're being trained to see what others cannot. And this questioning isn't just outward, it's also inward. You interrogate your own beliefs, your emotions, your triggers, your behaviors. This self-questioning gives you an extraordinary level of self-awareness. And that awareness becomes your spiritual armor. While others are content to adopt pre-packaged belief systems, you build your truth from the ground up. You test ideas, you observe results, you discard what no longer fits. This makes you independent, but also lonely. Few people understand what it's like to live in a state of constant reflection, to always be probing, digging, unraveling. But this process is forming a unique kind of mind capable of navigating paradox, seeing nuance, and holding multiple truths at once. This also makes you an intuitive lie detector. You can feel when someone isn't telling the whole truth. You sense manipulation even when it's subtle. You can spot spiritual bypassing, false teachings, or shallow ideologies from a mile away. Your mind resists hypnosis, and that resistance is divine. You weren't meant to be easily influenced. You were meant to be a lighthouse. This quality becomes especially important as you begin to step into your purpose. The world is full of noise, distraction, and illusion. Your ability to question everything will become your guide through spiritual chaos. It will help you separate signal from noise. It will help you align with truth, even when it's inconvenient, unpopular, or painful. Jung emphasized that questioning is not destruction, it's purification. When you question something, you're not trying to break it down. You're testing it to see if it's strong enough to stand. And what remains after your questioning is always stronger, clearer, and more authentic. This is how you build an unshakable foundation, not just for yourself, but for others who will one day look to you for guidance. Your questions are your superpower. Never stop asking them. From this unrelenting tendency to question comes a heavy but sacred burden, the feeling that you're somehow responsible for everything, even things far beyond your control. You might catch yourself lying awake at night, worrying about someone else's crisis, an environmental issue across the globe, or a social injustice that seems too massive to tackle. This isn't just empathy. Carl Jung believed this was something more profound, a cosmic sense of responsibility, rooted in the awareness of your spiritual assignment. You see, those marked for divine missions often carry within them an inexplicable duty to serve, protect, and uplift humanity. Even before you fully understand your role, your behavior reflects it. You take on emotional loads that others shy away from. You're the one friends call when their world falls apart. You're the listener, the fixer, the one who never turns away even when your own cup is empty. This burden can feel unbearable. You might feel guilty for relaxing when others are in pain. You may struggle to enjoy your blessings, knowing so many are suffering. It's as though your soul won't let you detach because it understands the deeper interconnectedness of all things. You don't just see yourself as an individual. You feel the weight of humanity's collective wounds in your chest. But here's the truth. This is part of your training. You are being prepared to hold space for others, not just emotionally, but energetically. Every time you carry someone else's pain, you're strengthening your spiritual capacity. You're learning how to absorb chaos without crumbling, how to remain present in darkness, how to bring calm to the storm. And while this is exhausting, it's also transformative. This sense of responsibility also sharpens your moral and ethical awareness. You can't unknow the truth once you've seen it. You can't look the other way when something is unjust. And you can't compartmentalize your values. This makes you a natural ethical compass, someone who holds others accountable to a higher standard, often without even trying. It also means you often feel out of sync with society. While others chase comfort, you chase purpose. While others ignore problems, you're already brainstorming solutions. And while others numb themselves, you stay awake. You feel everything. And that intensity can make life overwhelming. Jung observed that this deep empathy, this almost unbearable level of care, isn't weakness. It's power. It's spiritual leadership in its rawest form. You are not here to fix everyone, but you are here to help guide others toward healing. And that means feeling more, caring more, loving more than the average person. This kind of soul doesn't thrive on boundaries in the traditional sense. Therapists might tell you to stop overgiving, to detach, to protect your energy. But your soul resists. It knows that your purpose involves transmuting suffering, not avoiding it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't rest or care for yourself. You must, but you're wired differently. You were designed to hold more. That's why you've been given more. This weight you feel is not your imagination. It's sacred, and as overwhelming as it can be, it's shaping you into someone who will be able to stand in the center of collective storms and remain grounded. Not by ignoring the pain, but by transforming it. You're not just feeling the world's suffering, you're preparing to help heal it. As you carry this profound sense of responsibility, you may have also noticed a repeating theme throughout your life. One specific, deeply personal wound that seems to define your entire existence. No matter how much healing you've done or how far you've come, this particular pain continues to resurface, shaping your identity in subtle and powerful ways. Jung referred to this as the sacred wound, a form of suffering so personal, so intimate, that it becomes the central gateway to your soul's purpose. This isn't just childhood trauma or a string of bad luck. It's a precise spiritual tool, The sacred wound is the one area of pain that continues to pull at you, challenge you, and expose you. It often starts early in life: abandonment, betrayal, shame, powerlessness, and it seems to echo through every phase of your journey. But this wound isn't here to break you. It's here to awaken you. Jung believed that the sacred wound serves as a portal between your personal suffering and the collective unconscious. Through your lived experience of deep pain, you gain access to universal truths that most people never touch. You become intimately acquainted with a specific kind of suffering, and in doing so, you develop the exact medicine needed to help others who are going through the same thing. For example, if your wound is abandonment, you become hypersensitive to rejection. You understand loneliness on a cellular level, and that sensitivity becomes your gift. You'll be the one who creates spaces of belonging. If your wound is betrayal, you become a master of trust. You learn how to recognize authenticity, how to help others rebuild faith. The pain you've endured becomes your blueprint for transformation. But this journey is not linear. The sacred wound often takes you through multiple cycles: avoidance, denial, resistance, and finally, surrender. In the beginning, you might try to numb or outrun it. Later, you may try to heal or fix it through various methods. But eventually, you come to understand that this wound is not a flaw to be corrected, it's a portal to be honored. And when you stop trying to escape it, everything shifts. You begin to realize that the wound has shaped your deepest values. It's taught you compassion, resilience, and purpose. The pain has humbled you, softened you, and made you receptive to divine wisdom. In many ways, the wound has been your greatest teacher. It broke you open so that more light could enter. This sacred pain also serves as spiritual protection. It keeps you grounded. It ensures that even when you step into power, you never lose touch with human vulnerability. Your pain keeps you human. It prevents arrogance. It keeps your mission rooted in love. Even more mystically, your sacred wound often connects to ancestral or generational patterns. You might find that the pain you carry mirrors the struggles of your parents, grandparents, or ancestral line. That's because your healing doesn't stop with you. When you begin to transmute this pain, you're not just freeing yourself, you're breaking cycles that have persisted for generations. Your wound is not just your SITS collective, and your healing becomes collective too. Eventually, your wound becomes your platform. The same thing that once made you feel broken becomes the story that gives others hope. The same pain that nearly destroyed you becomes the light you shine for others walking through their own darkness. You become not just a survivor, but a guide, a healer, a channel of divine compassion, emerging from the long road of pain, solitude, questioning, and relentless responsibility. Something unexpected begins to take shape. Clarity, not in the form of a neatly written life plan, but as a deeper, unshakable inner knowing. Your sacred wound, once a source of torment, begins to reveal its higher purpose. The repeated struggles you faced weren't random. They were crafting you into someone who could hold both heaven and earth in the same breath. Jung believed that the journey of the chosen isn't just about personal transformation, it's about becoming a bridge between worlds. And you, whether you realize it or not, are becoming that bridge. You're learning how to navigate pain without becoming bitter, how to hold truth without becoming self-righteous, how to wield power without losing your heart. These qualities aren't taught in books. They are only learned through fire. The clarity you're developing now goes beyond intellectual understanding. It's intuitive, embodied. You begin to feel when something aligns with your soul, even if it makes no logical sense. You begin to trust your inner compass more than external approval. You say no more easily. You set boundaries not out of fear, but out of reverence for your energy. You begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And with that remembering comes activation. Your gifts, the ones that have been buried under shame, fear, or societal conditioning, start rising to the surface. Maybe it's your voice, your creativity, your ability to channel wisdom, your healing presence. The talents you once dismissed as irrelevant or impractical now feel urgent, necessary, and sacred. This is the beginning of purpose. Not the commercial kind of purpose sold in motivational videos, not the one-size-fits-all vision boards, but soul purpose, the mission etched into your being before you were born. You might not have all the details, but something inside you knows it's time. Time to stop hiding, time to stop shrinking, time to stop pretending you're just like everyone else. And as you step toward that purpose, resistance will arise, doubt will whisper that you're not ready. Fear will tell you you're not qualified. People around you might even project their insecurities onto you. That's okay, that's expected. You're breaking the mold. You're stepping off the conventional path. And anytime someone does that, it makes others uncomfortable. But you weren't born to make people comfortable. You were born to wake them up. Your very presence begins to challenge people, not because you preach, but because you live differently. You see through illusions. You question everything. You hold space for pain. You tell the truth even when your voice shakes. And through that embodiment, you become a mirror reflecting back to others their own untapped potential. This phase of clarity isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a new one where you no longer live by default, but by design, one where your wounds become wisdom, your sensitivity becomes strength, your voice becomes a vessel, and everything that once made you feel strange, broken, or out of place suddenly feels like the perfect preparation for the work ahead. You begin to realize you weren't being punished, you were being initiated. As this inner clarity takes root, you start noticing subtle shifts, not just within you, but in your external world as well. People begin approaching you differently. Strangers open up to you. Friends turn to you for deeper insight. You attract conversations that carry weight, situations that feel spiritually charged. This isn't coincidence. This is alignment. You're stepping into a frequency that calls in the very experiences your soul has been preparing for. Carl Jung wrote that the individuation process, the journey of becoming your true self, naturally leads to integration with the collective. In other words, once you awaken to your own essence, you are compelled to offer that essence in service to others. You don't do this out of obligation or ego. You do it because your soul cannot stay silent any longer. The experiences you've been through, the suffering, the isolation, the questions, the sacred wound, have become alchemical ingredients in a spiritual elixir only you can create. Others may have knowledge, but you have wisdom born from lived experience, and that wisdom is magnetic, healing, revolutionary. At this stage, you may start noticing synchronicities more often. Repeating numbers, recurring dreams, chance encounters that seem divinely orchestrated. This is your spiritual support team guides, ancestors, higher aspects of self-letting. You know you're on the right path. You're not imagining it. The veil between the physical and spiritual is thinning because you're now tuned to both. And with this sensitivity comes responsibility. You start realizing that your thoughts shape reality more quickly. Your words carry more power. Your energy influences the spaces you enter. This is not cause for fear, it's a call to become even more intentional, to refine your practices, to clear your channel, to live as a conscious vessel rather than a reactive participant. At this point, it's common to feel a sense of urgency, a deep inner knowing that your time is now, that your mission can no longer wait. This doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow or make dramatic changes overnight. It simply means you start showing up differently. You bring presence to your routines. You infuse your work with purpose. You allow your essence to shine through every interaction. And yes, the path ahead may still include obstacles. Growth doesn't end, but you now walk with a different kind of strength, a grounded confidence, a sacred humility. You no longer seek validation because you've already been chosen not by people, but by the divine. This shift also means releasing comparison. You stop measuring your journey against others because you understand that your timeline is unique. You stop chasing external goals that aren't aligned with your soul. You trust the unfolding. You follow the breadcrumbs, and you begin to feel a sense of peace even when the future remains uncertain. What used to feel like burdens now feel like initiations. What once felt like isolation now feels like sacred solitude. What was once unbearable pain now feels like sacred data. Everything begins to click. Everything begins to feel like it belonged. And perhaps the greatest realization of all, you don't need to become anything. You only need to remember, you already are who you were always meant to be. The gold has always been within you. The fire was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal your brilliance. By the time you reach this stage, something inside you has fundamentally shifted. You're no longer seeking approval, escape, or external confirmation. You've entered the phase of embodiment. You're not just learning spiritual truths, you're living them. Every choice you make, every word you speak, every moment you navigate is infused with the awareness that you're part of something sacred, something far bigger than yourself. This doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it does become meaningful. The hardships don't disappear, but they no longer define you. You begin to walk with grace through circumstances that used to overwhelm you. You respond to conflict with compassion instead of reaction. You trust the divine orchestration, even when you don't understand the plan. Carl Jung emphasized that the end goal of individuation wasn't perfection, it was wholeness. To accept all parts of yourself, the shadow and the light, the wound and the wisdom, the fear and the courage as equally sacred. You now see that your vices were never moral failings. They were messages. Each flaw was a riddle meant to guide you deeper into yourself. Each mistake was a doorway to self-understanding. This realization brings peace. You forgive yourself for past versions that didn't know better. You stop chasing healing like it's a destination and start honoring it as a lifelong rhythm. You begin to hold space for your own humanity with tenderness and truth, and in doing so, you naturally extend that grace to others. People sense the shift in you without even trying. You begin to influence your environment. Your energy speaks before you do. Your presence calms chaos. Your insight pierces through confusion. And still, you don't take credit. You understand that this power isn't yours, it flows through you. You're simply a willing vessel, a conduit for something divine. This humility doesn't shrink you, it expands you. You step into leadership not out of ambition, but out of alignment. When others look for direction, they turn to you, not because you have all the answers, but because you know how to listen deeply, intuitively, without agenda. Your strength lies in your ability to hold paradox, to acknowledge mystery, to walk in the tension between faith and doubt. You've become someone who no longer fears the unknown. You've danced with your darkness and survived. You've walked through spiritual deserts and found water in places others wouldn't think to look. And now, you're ready to share what you've learned, not to preach, but to empower, not to impress, but to illuminate. The world needs this version of you, not the one molded by fear or shaped by societal standards, but the one forged in fire, the one who knows how to find stillness in chaos, the one who carries ancient wisdom in modern form, the one who remembers. And now, as your story continues to unfold, you realize this isn't the end. It's just another beginning. There's more to uncover, more to embody, more to offer. But this time, you're not walking in confusion, you're walking in purpose. And with every step you take, the world becomes a little brighter now that you've walked this path through pain, questioning, solitude, responsibility, and awakening you can finally see what it was all leading to. Transformation. You've taken your deepest wounds and turned them into wisdom. Your most destructive habits have become indicators of a greater calling. The vices that once shamed you have now revealed themselves as the very signs that you were chosen, not in spite of your struggles, but because of them. Carl Jung's revelation that these 6 vices, restlessness, solitude, control, pain, questioning, and cosmic responsibility, are not moral failings, but divine signatures, changes everything. You begin to realize you were never broken. You were always being built. The truth is, not everyone hears this calling. Not everyone feels this fire. But if every word in this message has stirred something deep within you, then it's time to stop doubting and start honoring who you are. You're not lost. You're awakening. And your life up until now hasn't been a detour. It's been a map, unfolding one experience at a time, guiding you toward this moment. You were never meant to follow the path. You were meant to create one. So what now? Now you live as someone who knows. Now you speak with the authority of experience. Now you serve, not because you're supposed to, but because you were born to. The world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more authenticity. It needs your story, your voice, your medicine. You've been prepared, shaped, and refined for something far greater than survival. You are here to guide others home, back to themselves, back to truth, back to light. And every time you do, the universe expands in love because of it.